guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm here with
Miss Thing. I'm joking.
Miss Thing, literally Miss Thing. So we're here today because I received a comment on one of my past YouTube videos of someone asking basically how to get started up in Airbnb. So I thought we would sit down and just explain to you guys how we got started, how much we spent, our experience back then up until now, and just give you guys a brief understanding of what it takes, I guess, to start an Airbnb business, because obviously it isn't easy, but if you're dedicated, it will pay off in the long run.
Just a little disclaimer.
Oh, yes.
Everything at your own discretion.
At your own discretion. Yeah. Obviously, we're just giving our advice from our personal experience, so take it with a grain of salt. Everyone's experience is different.
Our journey is not going to be direct, concrete as to what you're going to suffer through or what you're going to experience. Like, there's a lot of things that we haven't gone through that other people have. For example, we take everything as it comes and we deal with it in the moment. And our defense mechanism is to be a little bit unserious about it so we can get through it. But that's why everything at your discretion, please. Thank you very much.
And we'll be saying this plenty times during the video. So act your own discretion.
Please.
Make your own informed decision, do your own due diligence, and you'll be fine.
Airbnb, obviously everyone knows it, but the actual name for it is called service accommodation. For me and Jem, we've always spoken about service accommodation. We always want to do it. Honestly, from like uni, we want to do it. But like everyone else, so you have the idea of like, oh yeah, this makes money, we want to do this, but no foundation, no information, no nothing. So then I found a course just for legal reasons. We're not gonna
be naming no names.
Yeah.
But if you go back through my channel, you'll know who we're talking about.
Yeah. We're gonna be very open and honest about our experience with the course. Yeah. And that's not to like, throw shade at the course or anything like that.
Because it did help us.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we also have a duty to be honest about what we've experienced.
Hence why we're documenting.
Yeah. So we started in December 2023. Wow. We paid for the course. The course was expensive.
Yeah.
Really, really expensive.
Obviously, we halved the cost between us. It wasn't as expensive, but overall, it was expensive.
And if you've watched Jem's previous YouTube videos, you know that we're very big advocates of having a business partner. This is one of the reasons. Like, financially, you can split the cost between yourselves, and that is not affecting as much as it could be.
At the time of the course, because right now the price has changed, it was 2.9, so each we paid around 1.4. Obviously, at the time, we didn't have money. That was literally our savings gone, so it was like, oh. But looking back at it now, we were blessed. Considering everything you get included in the course, I think it is worth it. I mean, for that price.
Yeah, for that price.
But now, obviously, we're not in the course anymore, so we can't really speak for people now.
Yeah. We paid almost 2K less than what it currently is now.
Literally.
And we're so happy that we did do it when we wanted to do it, because the cash loss now would be even more. And it may not be something that other people will be able to do. I don't think we could have done it with the prices for it now. The course was very thorough in terms of like the startup.
If you want a solid foundation, from our personal experience, I would say this course gave us that foundation that we needed, provided us with all the basics in terms of how to register our business, website, contracts, module videos, all kinds of information.
So they have this 90-day guarantee. So if you don't get your first property within 90 days, then you do get your money back. But there's a very strict requirement in terms of
read the fine print.
The fine print is severe, guys. So you had to show all the work you're doing towards getting your first property. You had to record everything.
They gave us an Excel sheet.
Yeah, and they checked this, and they had like people that kept checking up on you to make sure you're on track, if you have any issues, etc. like that. So obviously we had to watch 50 videos, which we accomplished within the month.
It felt like more.
It felt like more because some of the videos are like an hour long.
As in, we were sitting in Starbucks after work, 6, 7 p.m. going through videos upon videos. Like, it wasn't easy.
We met up every single day. At one point, I'm pretty sure she got sick of me, and I got sick of her. I kept seeing her face
constantly. I was like, oh, alright. I see you more than my family at this point.
We legit went through every single video, made our notes, developed our understanding, and then there was live calls that we had to join, like I think 3 times a week. So you have to show your attendance in these live calls. They record it. You have to record in the spreadsheet as well. Once you've now done that section, you then have to move on to like the practical side. It's not as hard as it looks.
Luckily, they recommended someone to us who did their website originally. We literally made like a layout of how we wanted our website to look, headings, pictures, all that stuff. It was £500 total, but we paid $250 initially, and then once they completed it, we paid the rest of the money to the person.
There's so many places where you can get not copyrighted pictures in terms of like the idea of that you're trying to go through. Think of a colour scheme, think of a name. That's another big thing. Don't overthink the name.
Yeah.
Keep it sweet,
simple, short, classy.
Yeah. just something that's going to be easy to remember, but also doesn't necessarily exist already. Like you have to also think about, has anyone else got this name? Is it going to be copyrighted?
Exactly.
And then think of a slogan for your company. We're called Aram Accommodation. Aram means comfort in my home language, and then our slogan is comfort in confidence. Short and sweet and simple. Once you have that sorted, and then think of like a little logo. So you can go to Canva, find a logo that fits the idea that you're going through. For us, it was kind of like a palm tree type of vibe because we wanted the peace and the comfort. You basically give the designer everything you want, and they put it into reality for you. It was very quick. I think she did it within like 1-2 weeks.
Yeah. We weren't even together. I remember I called. I was like, Jolly, website's live. I was like, oh my god, like, it looks amazing.
Like, it felt so real. For us, it was like, okay, we've done all of this so far. To see it in live, like
crazy.
This is us.
Obviously, they gave us a bunch of places to inquire into when speaking to landlords. Rightmove, Open Rent, Zoopla. I would say though, some of them aren't as easy to get in contact with landlords as others. I would not recommend Zoopla just because it's a lot of agents. And agents are very...
From our experience, we're never going to go through an agent. We won't even inquire into it because agents are very, very tough to deal with in terms of like trying to get interaction with the landlord. They're very much like, no, because they're the middleman. They control interactions between the landlord and anyone outside third party.
And more time, they probably haven't even asked the landlord. They just say no straight up.
They say no. So it's like, if you're going to be difficult, we're not going to deal with that difficulty. Negotiating, talking between 3 different parties, it's just very, very difficult to handle. I would always opt for direct
to landlord. Straight away. But I've heard stories of people that have found good agents that they've worked with and they're giving them multiple properties. So
at your own discretion.
We didn't have the best experience, but that's just us. So that's not for everyone. Just to put that out.
So it's not trying to say like we're demotivating you, not going towards agents.
Still try, because you never know.
We had to record how many people we were inquiring into. Every day you had to do something towards it, and they'll be asking questions or they'll be recording. They'll constantly keep track of where you're at. Once you start doing viewings and you get to a point where you're having some sort of negotiation with landlords, that's when you can ask questions. They help you out with what type of questions they ask. And then if you get to a point where you have like successful negotiation, they also provide you a contract.
But before that, even then, I think when it comes to speaking with landlords, with most courses to be fair, they tend to give you specific scenarios. And one thing I would say is that when you speak to a landlord, it's not always going to go like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. You speak to them, they're like, oh my god, yeah, let's do it. Like, that's no. In most cases, especially with us, well, with our first landlord, when we first met her, she said no straight away. She wasn't interested. She didn't want to do it. But it took some convincing for her to finally be like, okay, cool, let me hear more, explain it to me, what is this, let's do it. Have it in the back of your head that not everything goes according to plan. You need to be prepared for the landlord to, you know, maybe diverge off script and ask you questions that you might not be ready for.
You need to
expect the unexpected.
These type of questions they could run, you would not have no idea how to answer it because it's not something that you could just pop up and ask questions about in the moment. You need to be able to somewhat twang it. I'll be so honest, you have to be able to twang
just
it.
Think on your feet. Like, you have to think on your feet. The first time you do it is going to be a bit challenging, but the more you do it, it will get easier. Even us now, speaking to landlords, it's just like, okay, cool, like, we know what we're talking about. But bear in mind, a year ago from now, we didn't know nothing. Like, if you asked me this time last year to explain what's public liability insurance, what's contents insurance, I have to register on company's house. You know, I'd never heard of company's house until I started this business. Never in my life. So the amount of stuff we've learned, crazy.
Now, at your own discretion. This is where we be honest. So we will always say the course that we did was always great in terms of providing a foundation. We got the basic understanding on how to create our company, how to move forward, and how to get our first property. In all honesty, following this, the course is probably not your best friend. That's not to say anything bad, but I would say you cannot rely on them for one-to-one help. This is not like they're gonna be baby feeding you everything.
I like to say when you're an undergraduate, because also once you graduate, you're a graduate, innit? So when you're an undergraduate, obviously your main priority, you've got your one-to-one chat. Whenever you ask a question, whenever you need anything, any help, they are there to assist you. At times, there would be experiences where we'd ask a question, maybe it would take a couple hours to get a response, but all in all, overall, when we were in the course, it was fine. Once you graduate, all of that kind of does go out the window. It's very hard to get a response to any burning questions that you might have. I remember one time I asked a question in the one-to-one. I'd asked it in the main group chat, but people were giving me different answers and I just wanted a straight answer from the course people. Asked the question and then I don't think I got a response until like 2 months later. And at that point, when they responded, I was like, there's no point, I've already dealt with it. Like, thank you, but
We would not get to our first property without their help.
Yeah.
But I think the narrative of maybe the continuous support that you would get is not exactly how they advertise. And I'm just saying this because I don't want people to pay all this amount of money into a course where they're thinking they're going to be fed everything along every single step of the way. It's not like that. You'll get the basic understanding, the basic foundation, the basic setup. At this point, you can go towards the internet. You have the basic understanding, you just need to develop it in certain situations. And unfortunately, the course is not going to be there to support you that as much as you would want it to.
And that's our situation now. Like, since we've graduated from the course, I think it's going to be a year in like 10 days since we graduated from the course. Since then, we have literally been doing everything ourselves, learning new things ourselves. New things will come up and we're figuring out ourselves. It gets to the point where you have to just kind of be autonomous and figure out for yourself, essentially. Like, be active and go out and search for the information. If you have people that you can ask that can help you, do that. Don't just rely on the course that's provided to you.
There's nothing wrong with it, but if you're someone who needs that constant one-to-one support, we would not recommend the course that we did, because I feel like there's other courses that they're more like very one-to-one in terms of that they only take a few students. This course is very big. They have over 200 students. So understandably,
over like 900.
Oh damn, I'm thinking it's 200.
No, they got a lot.
They got a lot of students.
Very popular.
So it's understandable that they can't come back to you at certain times because obviously their priority is students that haven't graduated, that have just joined the course, which is fine. If you're that person, we would recommend a course that maybe only takes a couple of students at a time if you need that direct one-to-one support.
So do your due diligence at your own
discretion, please.
There's so many courses out there, so just find the one that works best for you. Someone popped up to me on Instagram asking about, like, you know, laws. Bear in mind they're in Canada. I'm in London. I don't know nothing about Canada, y'all. I never been there. I never been there. I want to come maybe one day, but I've never been there, so I don't know about the laws there. She does law, so she deals with all that kind of stuff. Try and be educated and just make executive decisions based on your own research. Don't take this as us saying don't ask for help. Like, no, that's how we go where we are, because we asked for help.
So we paid 1.4 each for the course.
500 for the website.
Company house fees.
Creating a custom domain. Business address.
Business email. You have to think about travel fees and like food costs. We were doing viewings every single day. Like after work, 9 to 5, 6 o'clock. It's ice and snow on the floor. But we're going to view it.
Some days we'd have 2 viewings in one day. 3 viewing.
I remember one time we went to 2 viewings in the morning. We then drove to the other side of London, sat in my car.
3-4 hours?
3 hours, Whilst we're in the car, we're going through Scarlet and trying to get into more viewings.
Properties,
so,
literally.
like, the whole day is gone just doing viewings. If you got a card, then obviously that's a blessing. But obviously think about petrol fees. Once you get into the property, you have to think about deposit. So obviously we were lucky enough to get the deposit replacement scheme, which covers the deposit for 5 weeks. So that's something you should really strongly advertise to your landlords because it saves you a lot at the start.
So essentially how it works is you pay a monthly fee or a yearly fee, depending on what agency you go through, to the agency. They will cover the deposit for the landlord, so you don't actually have to pay the deposit up front, and it saves you upfront costs. Obviously when you get your property, you have to think about furnishing, rent, bills, all these kind of things. Being able to remove that one extra aspect just reduces your further costs. It just makes it easier for you to start up your property.
When you first get into a new property, you have to pay first month's rent up front and deposit. That's twice the amount of rent.
And who's got that kind of money?
If I had no money, are you crazy?
Cause he lives cause of living crisis. As in, I can't even buy bread. Please, even look at my water. Look, this is all I have. Guys, you need to think, you know?
You need to think strategically. You have to plead your case on certain things. I had one guy on the phone be like, I'm not sure about deposit replacement. So you don't hang up the phone. You keep pleading your case. Tell them that this is more worthwhile for them. They get protected for 5 weeks, 6 weeks instead of 4 weeks.
And if there's ever a situation where, God forbid, you aren't able to pay the rent for whatever reason, you don't have to stress. The agency will pay them back that money that they claim, and you're good. It's really helpful. I definitely recommend it.
Then we have to pay first month's rent up front. So our first property was £2,100. Then you move on to the actual property itself, so furnishing.
This was fun but stressful.
It was,
I think for the first property it was more stressful just because at this point, obviously we pay for the course and like all the other start costs. We each, just to be transparent, we each had 2k in our savings, so we had 4k combined. Majority of that went to the course. So at this point we're literally living paycheck to paycheck. All the money that we get is going towards furnishing and having to get the property up. I think it literally took us like almost a month and a half to get that first property up and running. And obviously at this point we're still learning, we're still newbies. We're looking for things on like Facebook Marketplace. That's what we recommend. You can find very good cheap stuff from there. We've got our first sofa bed from there. We've got our coffee table, our TV unit, our dining table. Luckily we did already have a bed and a wardrobe and just in case, so we didn't have to buy that. I definitely recommend if you are furnishing, don't try and go to like expensive. Like,
not for your first one anyway.
Not for your first one. Unless you have the means. If you do, go ahead.
Yeah.
But I definitely recommend like, you know, B&M, Dunelm, Facebook Marketplace. Furnishing, I think we spent like...
I'll probably say K.
I'll say 1.5. I calculated it was between like 1 and 2.
Okay, so we'll say 1.5.
I'll say 1.5 just for medium range.
With the furnishing as well, you have to think about to get a Wi-Fi installed, the gas and electricity, you have to do water, you might have to get meters installed, you have to do council tax, you have to do liability insurance, furniture insurance. This is all under the same bracket. Like you can pay these monthly, but you have to think about the setups, the costs. You have to be there present in the property for people to install the meters and Wi-Fi. I'm so happy that I had Jem because unfortunately I had a job that I couldn't work from home. Jem was blessed with a job that allowed her to work from home, so she was able to come here and work from the property. And let them come and do their job. But say for example, if I was by myself, I'd be at a loss because the only times I'd be able to be at the property would be at a weekend or after work.
Especially with Wi-Fi, they tend to come early in the morning or during the day. So no one's coming at 6, 7 p.m. to get your Wi-Fi sorted. Depends on who you find. At your own discretion. Obviously, in our situation, in both cases of our Wi-Fi, they've always come early in the morning. But I'd say in total, have like a good, I'd say 5 to 6K personally.
I'd say 6. I'll be so real with you. Bear in mind, guys, we're talking as if someone is in our position. 2 young people with, you know, regular lives, regular jobs that have little savings, but obviously we're not someone who has like 20, 30K saved up. At that point, we're 22, 23. We're still considered babies. So to start a business as big as something like this, keep that in mind. So if you're someone in the same position as us, I'd say minimum 6K, depending on the type of property you get. If you choose to get like a 1-2 bedroom like we did, fine, you're good. But if you want something a bit more bigger from your first jump, which you can do at your own discretion, but just know it's more costly. For example, this property, we didn't have to go to Facebook Marketplace. We got everything from, you know, the stores.
I don't know about you, but I've never bought a sofa in my life.
Never buy.
This was our first time buying a sofa, and we were able to buy it outright from the profits that we made from our first property. So again, like there's certain things that we weren't able to do before, but we were able to do now because the first one is doing so well.
As much as we say that if you want to, you will. Also take it as in like when you're ready. If you take on something without being ready, you're going to hurt yourself so much. Make sure you do your due diligence. When you first sign for a property, you have to make sure that the legal requirements are done. So for example, EPC, which is the Energy Performance Certificate, you have to make sure all the electrical work is up to standard in the property. Gas safety certificates, they have to be done annually, and that is a landlord's duty to do. How to rent guides, a booklet, that's something that a landlord is duty bound to give you so that you are aware of your rights and your responsibilities whilst in the property. Yes, we provide the contract in terms of like the company-led contract, but make sure you do your due diligence.
Not we, the course.
The course, we didn't do it. Obviously, they give you like a draft understanding of the contract, and you have to edit it quite severely. You don't go there and just do little bits here and there. You have to make sure you go through it properly with a tiny, you know, fine-tooth comb. Is that what it's called?
I just put a magnifying glass.
Literally.
There's some terms that you might want to add, or the landlord might want to add or remove, so you need to go through it properly. And make sure
like when it came to our second property, we went negotiation with the contract for like a week. From my experience working in law, tenants in this country have a lot more rights. That's why it takes ages to, like, for example, evict someone. If there's any issues with the property, I'm able to draw up a notice and send it to a landlord and then seek claim for damages on compensation. That's my legal right. These little things, read up on, like Housing Act laws, property laws, like all this type of stuff. You don't have to know the ins and outs, but have a basic understanding so the wall is not pulled over your eyes. Because the last thing you want to do is be in a position where you have to give back the property because you can't maintain it.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, obviously, it's every man for themselves. Obviously, the landlords want to protect themselves as much as you want to protect yourselves. So just make sure you guys both have that understanding of like what you expect of each other, just to ensure that you can build that relationship. Just make it easier for yourself from the get-go. Do the hard work from the beginning.
Don't let your interaction with the landlord for the first time negatively affect your attitude or your opinion. Our first landlord, she said no from the jump, but we weren't rude. We didn't say anything or come across in a manner that was like disrespectful. Keep the same energy because you never know. This one came in and she was like, wow, oh my god, I love it.
I was like, oh my god, yes. And I think when she saw that, she was like, oh, okay.
She was
like, like the property.
Yeah, she knew we liked it. The way you come across, even if you get like a negative like attitude or a negative answer from a landlord, they can switch up and change their minds. Don't let it affect how you respond or how you move. Like if you come across very salty after one interaction with that landlord, babe, this is not the industry for you. I'm so real with you, because so many times people will say no, 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 and then because of the way you come across, because of the energy and because of your attitude and your understanding and your explanation, you could turn that around.
Exactly.
Just have a very
Glass is half full,
type of attitude when it comes to these situations, because you're not always going to be lucky, but you can't act like you're always going to be unlucky.
Yeah, and it's not easy, but if you're determined and you want this for yourself, it will work out for you. Just stay determined. Every no you get, you're getting closer to getting a yes. So keep going at it. Don't let whatever it is like stop you.
We both went through times where we're thinking, is this worth it? Can we do this?
No money.
Like no money. When I tell you times were tough, times were tough.
Surviving on £3 bagels.
I was working 2 jobs on top of the business to even survive, and even then I was still living out of my overdraft. But you have to understand, like, suffering is temporary. If you put in the work and you have that positive attitude, it will prevail. You will succeed. You just have to keep going. Be patient, because when we put up our first property, we did not see any bookings until April. We put up in February. Our first booking was in April. Now that's 2 months. Obviously 2 months doesn't sound like a lot of time, but when you have no money and you're waiting for bookings to come through,
it's like the longest
time. You're thinking, like, is this even going to work? That's what you're thinking.
And even with our first property, the amount of times when we put it up, we get bookings and then people would cancel. We're thinking, like, what's the point? Like, people are booking but they're cancelling. So, like, what's the issue?
You have to remember, when you first start anything, it's always going to be the hardest.
You need to establish your presence.
Yeah, you have to establish your presence. You have to stuff it out, because at one point you're going to get that first review that's going to be like, oh my god, wow, these guys are amazing, the property was so nice.
And it'll attract more people. I'd rather deal with the repercussions of the suffering now, because I know that my hard work for now is only building me up for what's to come. And it's only going to be greatness. God wouldn't have given us this vision if it wasn't meant to be. And the fact that we've gotten this far, it might not seem like a lot to some people, but for us it is a lot.
God will give his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers.
I already said for 2025, I don't want to be in the Strong Warriors list. Take me off.
What happened?
We're still on here.
We're still here.
We're still on here.
Even whilst we're doing this new property, our personal lives has been beating us left, right and centre. With time, it becomes easier. Like, to be able to deal with your personal life, your business and your whole like professional life in terms of working, because we're still working right now. You end up developing a balance. We had these big visions for a reason. Like, we wouldn't have started service accommodation, Airbnb, if God didn't know that we could. I'm so sorry, respectfully. We put in so much work to get to the point we are now, and we're only growing.
We're still at the beginning, still only just getting started. And even now, the jump from our first property, a 1-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, like that's a very big, but again, it took us a year. It was long, but it was worth it.
I will also say, don't believe everything on social media, okay? These people, these gurus or whatever that are saying, oh yeah, you can quit your job after getting 1 Airbnb. They're liars. They lie through their teeth. But let me be honest, right? You can make this a successful business. You can make this your long-term job if you're committed, if you're serious, and you're willing to be patient. There's no way in holy hell that you're going to be able to quit your job after 1 Airbnb. Unless you have a mansion in the Hilton. I don't know about you, babes. I can't lie to you, but us simple folk that started from the bottom, you have to think you're gonna have to at least have 3 to 4 properties to generate you an income that's significant enough to sustain your life. You have to be patient, you have to be resilient, and don't take on too much too quickly. If you want to get to a point where you're going to be successful, be realistic and be patient. It's not going to happen in a year. I know some people say that, oh yeah, within a year you're going to be able to quit your job. It's a lie.
Patience is a virtue.
If you need a course, there's so many out there. We're not going to be that person to sit there and name drop people, because again, at your own discretion, because we don't want to be sued, okay?
So that's everything we wanted to talk about in this video. I do hope this helped and gave you guys more of an insight into, I guess, more so our experience of, property and how it's been for us so far. If you have any further suggestions of what you want to see in regards to property, comment it down below. Any questions, we'll be happy to answer it at your own discretion.
At your own discretion. My word of advice is document your journey. You don't have to post it anyway. You can if you want to. What's the harm? Look back and be like, oh my god, wow. And if you end up posting it, make a little TikTok page, cool. The views and like people aspiring to be like you, there's no harm. And let other people be inspired.
Literally. If you guys enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like the video as well, share it if you care enough to. If you don't, whatever. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Tradition.